My name is Clifton Odman. I'm the vice captain for Brixton Immortals. We've enjoyed a lot of success, as you're aware. 24 months, well, 25 months. We've played 2 matches this season and we've won both matches, so it's 25 months unbeaten. As you know, well, I've been with the club for 6 years, and it's been an inspiration because I left another club which is very successful, Clapham Eagles, and I was there for what, 12 years. I was captain and vice captain of that club, and I didn't think that any other team could top that. But Brixton have come and shown themselves as true immortals. And yeah, we're enjoying some real success there.
So Domino's is really in your blood?
Yes, not as much as some of the other guys, but I've been with Domino's from my early 20s. I knew the game from when I was back home in Jamaica, but I didn't really engage in it until I was in my 20s over here. But the history of Domino's, it was a community thing where if you were in a village or town or so, and you used to have a little shop, you put a domino table and stools outside and people come up and they'll play the domino to pass the time, and they'll play for food, drinks, back home we say bulla, and that kind of stuff. You know, and it used to engage everybody. And as you know, the Caribbean culture is a very relaxed environment. But when you get deep into the dominoes, it can get pretty
loud.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Yeah. And then the sport has developed. So towns used to challenge one another. And so that's how the game really developed. And then you have some very inspirational players. It's just magical with the game. From you draw your hand, they can tell you what's happening. And I'm sure if you look at some of the films that we've taken at the club, you see a lot of the guys demonstrating skills like that.
Yeah, the skills level is just off the charts.
Very, very, very high.
I can't even emphasize it enough, and that's one of the things I want to touch on.
Yeah.
Is how do we spot a good player, for example?
Well, there's it's not, you don't spot it. You see it, you feel it. When you play against someone good, you instantly, you know you're in for a challenge when you see the way they conduct themselves and even get out and talk about the game whilst it's in motion. There's nothing you can do to change that. They'll say you can only play deuces or 5 deuce or whatever.
Play the card, man. Play the tree.
You have one player, and no matter where you look, you can't change the domino. That's just how it is. And that's the heights of the game, really. So what happens now? What you see with us is that we play co-domino, and basically that's about allowing everybody to have a equal game, because some people can claim that they're playing mental, which is what you don't hint about your hand. You just play what you see as you see. Some people call it bus brain, where you just have to read the domino and know what's happening. And then some people try, on the other hand, to cheat with it. So they'll have a silent code or whatever, and then their partner will understand what they're trying to say and what they've got, and they'll use that to their advantage. When you play open code, there's none of that, because you code anyhow. So there's no advantage of trying to cheat, because you play with someone regularly, you can understand them from a distance what they're trying to tell you. That doesn't happen in a co-domino. So
that's why your partner's important.
Yes. So you will study a code which will be a signal to him to say, you know, if I touch my ears, that means I got a piece of 6, or do my chin, I got an S or 5 or whatever you want to make it. So you see, whilst the game is going on, people will be touching it like that or whatever, winking or leaning there to one side. That's all different code depending on what you've arranged with your partner, and that is so important to get that right, because if you miscode, you could end up looking very, very silly, and you'll lose the game. And you don't really want to lose the game when you have a good hand, because they will embarrass you with that. Yeah, and so that's the basis of it. So everybody uses the code now is in our league, and that's the way forward in terms of being fair and playing the game equally.
There was, I think you just touched on there, because during the game, there was one of the players asked, "Man, how much you got left?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're playing the game, it's important to track everything. So you have to track what your partner has, what the opponent has, and the missing dominoes that you can't actually find. So by way of working it out, so you'll see once the game is playing, one will go to the other, and that one has 5-3. And once you put it in order, you can work out and dictate and command how the game will go to your advantage. So that's really
so if a
cool.
man, like you're saying, misreads,
Yes.
misreads the card,
Creates a big problem.
puts the wrong card down, man loses the game, the table winning players jump up in the air and screaming.
Yeah.
So amongst the mayhem, if an outsider was looking, what clue would you tell the outsider to know which player has made a mistake and which one has won?
Okay. Well, generally, the one that stands up and banging the table is often the victor.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's won the game.
Yeah.
And then literally, if you lost it, you just have to sit down and take it, the mountain and whatever. It's your opportunity to express that you win.
Yeah.
Often they'll say, "I got 5 deuce and I kill your 6 whatever or whatever." And they'll talk about your domino that you hand. When you see the player open his hand, you'll see those very dominoes.
That's clear, isn't it?
Yes. You see those very dominoes in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So I saw a classic play once. A man was making a move, and a man showed his hand with 3 dominoes. Yes,
that's right.
He just went like that.
Yeah, he can't and telling me he can't play another.
And we're not believing him. So play the game. Yeah. And they go, play the game. All right, boom, and then he'll tell you boom, exactly. and boom, and he told you what was going on, and you're like, wow. I've actually seen a man do it before.
Well, they can do it with 7 sometimes.
Yeah, you've seen it, innit, right? Yes. When they just go like that,
yeah.
and you just think, oh my God, what happened? Yeah. So,
but yeah, if you're not used to the game, sometimes you can be confused as to know who's won it. But the guys on the table will definitely have known. Yeah.
So showing your hand is one.
So,
man might stand up as another.
Yeah. So it's different ways. People declare the way they win differently. If it's a tough game, we've worked it out and everybody's trying to trick each other, then you'll see that sometimes they'll be looking for one domino. So it'll be like, when I say looking for it, all the players might have all the players might have 4 each in their hand. But because you need to now make a play, it depends on where the dominoes are, which domino you've got to play to win. And sometimes when you're working it out, you need to know if this man has 5 deuces in his hand. Because if he has, you can't play this one. You have to play it another way. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So when you've worked it out and you've identified that you've actually pinned down one of his dominoes so he cannot win, then you know that you worked it really well, and that deserves a celebration, and that is banging and mashing up the table. So I got involved in the dominoes. An ex-girlfriend of mine, her mum used to play it, and went to her house, and she had trophies in her cabinet. I said, I know that game from back home. And she says, can you play it? And I can't remember it that much. So she said she'd take me down to the club. So she took me to a club in Acton, in my early 20s. And I got introduced to the game, and I thought, as a young guy, you put this one down. I mean, I knew it, but I used to see back home those guys play it, but they used to play it, and I forgot how they used to get more mad and exciting. But for me, putting down the domino was such a, it just seemed, I can beat these old people. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, when I started to play it, and they were telling me what was in my hand, I'm looking in my hand, I'm thinking like, how you know that? And they've worked it all out and said, you can't play this, you can't play that. I'm thinking, wow, no, I've got to get better at this. And so, I got some of my friends together, we used to play it, and they used to practice. And one guy saw me playing it, and he said to me, why don't you come to one of the Domino clubs? And he said he was at the pub, and at the time I was in Stockwell. a guy called Becky used to have a pub, and we went down there, and I saw these guys down there, and these guys were just mean with this thing. You go in there and they said, look, don't ramp with the game, kind of thing, and you think to yourself, geez. And sometimes you be holding a domino trying to play it in the early stages, and you be like so focused on it that you just don't want to play it wrong, and you think, I've got to get better at this.
Yeah.
And so as you went to stay around these guys, they all bring you together and show you the game. And when I went back to some of the older clubs that I've been through over the years, they'll see where you come from when you started, and they say, wow, this man he can play this game now. And that's really how it come. So trying to get the young people in it's quite difficult, because when I got into the game itself, I saw that the older guys didn't really have the time to stop and teach you. And I just thought I wouldn't want to be in one of them, because, when I went in there to play with the guys and they were playing for drinks and all that, and you didn't want to lose because they're making a big thing and trying to embarrass you. But obviously, knowing that, we'd like to present a platform where we can invite the youths, where they can be comfortable and see the game at the level that we play at now, and offer them, a training platform so they can get into it. But the mindset of youngsters, I don't think they want to stand still. It's more computerized and
Yeah, because I find, my love for Dominos goes way back from my mother. She was one of the original domino players, the man you see in Brixton. And I used to, I learned personal development from me, mixing with the older generation. What I learned, how I developed as a man, how I conducted myself, how I could learn to listen to what's being said to me, even though they're saying it to me in an aggressive manner. It was all part of the growing up as a person, and it gave me tools to sort of like better equip myself. And that's why I'm really interested. I love Domino's, and anytime I've been trying to introduce it to young people, especially when I come to my mum's house when she was alive, I say, come down to my mum's, we play Domino's, have a drink, and they'd come and see a different side to my mum, even, you know what I mean? Saying, and I was really happy for that to be seen. I think it's important we share that, and I think again this film's important.
Yeah, years ago, when I used to come to the Brixton Domino Club, when you got through the door, they welcome you because they like the fact that you're new and you've got the inspiration to be one of them or play the game and that. So they always embrace you with it. But sometimes when you're there, some of the guys, obviously they just want you to play the game properly, and sometimes you're not at that level, and sometimes it can be a little bit challenging for the youngsters. But that's not really an issue, because obviously if we provide training, that's not going to.
And that's where the key comes, right? Yeah. It's about that friendly atmosphere at the beginning of introduction, right? Yeah. To the game. So you don't want to feel I'm not good enough to play and it's beyond my reach.
It's not like that, but it can be.
It can start off that way.
Exactly.
So it's that dauntingness of I know I don't want to make a mistake. My mum used to look at me across the table, and I don't know if I make a mistake because she'd only work with. So she played a friendly level when there's a get together. So she'll play with her kids, right? So we'd get scorned quite easily. She'll get up, Michael. Come play the game. And then she'll look at me, I made a mistake, and she'll go, Lee, get ready, get ready. But I think, like you're saying, it is nice. And so do you think, since you've been there, have you seen any progression of it being introduced, steps to be introduced to younger generation?
No, we'll put it this way. We've got a few challenges that's hampering that. Basically, from the outside, the building don't look very inviting, and financially, that's one of our challenge. And we'd like to be in a position where we can make it more youth friendly. I provide whatever the youth would be attracted to inside that building or environment that will bring them there. Do you understand? Obviously, a bunch of old boys playing dominoes is not very attractive. From the outset, once you look at the game, what they're playing, it can attract you, but without something to bring you into that building, you're not really going to want to go in there and see it in its current state. So, you know, you need the exposure is one. Obviously, we need funding to allow us to have the, you know, the equipment and that makes it youth-friendly, i.e. open earlier, and provide like people there to accept them and make it an environment that they walk into and see much of themselves, other young people in there. And then we can bring them, you know, obviously create the atmosphere for them to improve their game and that kind of stuff.
You know, I was talking about, I grew up in Sussex, right? I was talking about it today, about sports and the elite level. And then what you have is this grassroots level. So back in the day at school, I'd have to pay for my county to play for England. Right, school first, then my county, and then England. And anyway, I would get signed up to a professional club. But my goal was county England, not the club like they do today. And I think that one of the ways we should, and again, is that does Domino's have to look at themselves in that way? Maybe at a level, there's what you call...
No, to be honest with you...
What I'm looking for, you know...
No, well, put it this way, it would be... Well, actually, I say no, I mean yes. In terms of... yeah, that's the way forward. Obviously, you'd like the youngsters to compete against themselves because competition is always healthy. Yeah? So you'd like that. But obviously, you want them to be in a... So, yeah, you would want the youngsters to compete with themselves, to be... to know their skill level. Yeah? Obviously, they'd be trained in different clubs and areas and that kind of thing. The league, we have a league now that we play in. So all the teams are played in. It's not age... there's no age barriers with it or grouping with it. It's just you put a team together and you go and play. And so that's what we do. Obviously, if we had funding, we could then present that for the youngsters and provide them with that. And obviously, they would have to come to the club to train and get and do their skills and then get spotted and then obviously enter into the tournaments and that kind of stuff. So that's how... That would be one of the ways forward. But again, they still would have to come to a club. To get that, go to that level. Yes. Because
I was doing something recently as well where they're looking at Dominos to teach kids maths now.
Yeah, I mean, that was always, I mean, it's always helpful because you have to calculate the game because sometimes when the game come into the closing stages, whether you look to block the game or because of you can win with your hand, or no point in blocking it, but then you have to do your calculations to see where all the dominoes are and how they add up.
Now, can you explain that?
Yeah.
There's different ways of closing the game, right?
Yeah. So each domino, so you have 7 blanks, 7 of all the dominoes. So you got blank, S, which is 1, deuce, which is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's it. Yeah. So you have 7 dominoes there. When you block it, means that you've used up all of one of them. So you've got deuce at one end and deuce at the other end, and there's no more deuce.
No more deuces to play.
So that means the game's blocked. Nothing else can play. And so what's remaining is what you count.
Yeah.
So then you would need to know that if this man have 5 deuce and 3s, yeah, you know, that's 11, yeah? Yeah. So if you can count less than that, then you would win.
You win the game.
Yeah. So that's what you work out, but you need to know what he has. So your calculations, whatever you think he has, and you worked it out to pinpoint him to those dominoes, and then the total amount will determine whether it's worth it to block it or not. Yeah. So that's how that is. So it's never far away from maths. So you definitely need to be calculating at all times what the dominoes are.
It's a great. I mean, when I read about it, and I realised how important in. I actually now think, because I've got a love of money and counting money, I actually do think it's coming from me understanding numbers. from Domino days, and you know.
Yeah.
So the value of maths and counting.
Yeah, I mean, in the school, it'll be very useful.
Yeah,
you know.
I think so as well.
The domino traditionally is for Afro-Caribbean people. A lot of us, a lot of the guys in the club know each other from back home, and so whenever they come from the Caribbean, they might be told that they can go to Brixton Domino Club. They might meet this person there or whatever, and they will put them up or know them from back home, so they can say, look, I know Michael. So if you go down there, tell Michael that you're my friend or whatever, and Michael will see to you to make sure that he gives you the information on what's happening and make sure that they look after you. So through that now, when we go back, say one of the guys are leaving, they're going to Jamaica or wherever, they might say, oh, can you take this for Michael or take this for so-and-so, because we all know. And so it becomes like a family environment, because a lot of the guys would be from the same place back home, and that we have that sense of belonging. So you find that a lot of the guys, we interact with each other at the Domino Club and nowhere else, because it's a central point for us to meet and have a game and chat and whatever. We know in the community what's happening.